I'm with Shane Hunter, and this is an honor because Shane is the smartest guy I know about all things Rolling Stones. Okay, so Shane is with the Rolling Stones tribute band. Go ahead, Mick Adams, and go ahead.
Yeah, Mick Adams and the Stones. I had a coffee cup around here somewhere, but I think I gave it to my dad.
Yeah. So Mick Adams and the Stones, and they travel all over the place, and they're like the most convincing. Like they do it right. They do it the way it's supposed to be done. If you're honoring the Rolling Stones, go see Mick Adams and the Stones. So
Please, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
Shane's he's got a history and lots of guitar, but he's, as I said, you're the smartest guy I know about all things Rolling Stones, all things Keith Richards. You're the Keith in that band. Would that be accurate to say?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's start off by talking about the Stones in the beginning. The beginning, they started out, it was kind of like a Brian Jones kind of thing. He was like kind of the leader. Is
He
that
was
right?
absolutely the leader. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, he put the band together. And he was like a strict, he was into playing blues, like Bottleneck.
Yeah, he was an Elmore
Open,
James guy.
yeah, he played open E, open D, Bottleneck. And he just really, and actually they were all really into that. We were kind of talking a little bit about this before. They wanted to put together an R&B or a blues band or a combination.
Yeah,
of
they really didn't want to do it. They didn't see themselves as a rock band when they started out.
Not at all. Not at all. They were just that's, the story goes like both Mick and Keith went to elementary school together, but then they separated for middle schools and stuff like that, and they saw each other years and years later. And Mick Jagger had a bunch of blues albums under his arm at the train station.
Yeah.
And Keith went up to ask him about the blues albums, like, hey mate, where'd you get those? And realized he knew him. And they went home together, like and listened to those albums for probably a year.
Yeah,
they
tried
decided
to take everything off of them they could. Those were their heroes.
They were, and like in the United States, all those men were in our backyards, and no one even heard of them.
Right. The guys like the Stones are like it was like the blues in the early '60s in America it wasn't, we didn't know about it.
No,
we had to appreciate it through the British invasion.
Yeah,
all the British invasion guys totally adopted it.
They introduced us
to our own music.
Yes, absolutely true. And the Stones just they liked the whole, I don't know if you want to say the dirty aspect of it, but they got into the gritty aspect. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yeah,
they're into the actual, like they didn't want to clean it up and make it poppy.
Right.
They wanted to absolutely replicate what they heard, and that's what the Stones, their first band, that's what it was. And they actually got the name because they booked a gig and they had to have a name of the band, and Brian Jones picked it up off of a Muddy Waters album cover.
Yeah, because it's a Muddy Waters tune.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. And before they started writing songs, it was absolutely Brian's band.
Yeah,
and they were playing. Apparently, all the local, any local place that would let them play, they were playing blues, and everybody in England loved it. Not only just the bands, because all the bands were into it and adopting it and playing it. All the kids, that's what they wanted to hear,
right?
Because it had energy like nothing they'd ever heard before.
Yeah.
And then of course also they, like Keith started, he kind of blended in a lot of Chuck Berry,
right?
Kind of gave it that up tempo, you could dance to it,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But you were mentioning what earlier? You're talking about Buddy Holly and his influence.
Yeah, so the chord, I'm thinking so many of the early Rolling Stones songs. First off, it's important to take note that when the Rolling Stones first started out, they were a cover band.
Yes.
Okay. So in the first albums they put out were cover albums.
Yes.
Mostly, if not entirely.
There was all cover albums until they weren't.
Yeah.
And then
they got this Andrew
Oldham, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And he was
He
16
was their
years
he was their
old.
manager, and he goes, "You guys gotta, you guys, the Beatles are rich because they're writing music. They're writing their own tunes. So get into a kitchen. They get them into the kitchen. Mick and Keith were up to the task, and Brian Jones didn't have that ability, or he didn't care, or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, he for some reason was not included in the songwriting, and that's kind of probably what wedged something between them all. And then also the songwriting kind of came out in comparison to, especially the early songwriting, in comparison to the grunge of Muddy Waters and I don't know, just anybody like that. They loved
The Howlin' Wolves and the Chicago Blues was their jam.
Absolutely, Howlin' Wolf for sure. And they early on, before they even started writing songs, they were very popular, and they had some pull, and started bringing some blues musicians to England to play.
Right.
And Howlin' Wolf was one of the first ones they brought.
Right.
And Brian was still real into the Stones at that point, but as soon as they started writing, it was more, the writing kind of sounded like Buddy Holly,
right?
Early, and it's the same open chords. It's kind of
like the Buddy Hollies when Buddy Holly wrote "Not Fade Away,"
right.
And that Bo Diddley beat too.
That's total Bo Diddley. So they swiped it from Bo Diddley because that's why Bo Diddley, they call it the Bo Diddley beat. That whole rhythm, which is just
which is like I think Caribbean based.
It could be, yeah. But he's got full credit to that, and there's so many songs. I mean, it's Magic Bus by The Who.
Right.
There are endless amounts of songs with the Bo Diddley beat. You take the beat out of it, the song doesn't even work. But yeah, Not Fade Away. The Stones still play that in their sets. I went and saw them twice this year, and one of the times they played it as an encore, and that is absolutely them covering
the Buddy Holly kind of, or
a white man.
yeah.
That's them covering a white dude.
Right.
Unusual too, but he in America kind of cleaned up. That's what I was trying to explain. He kind of was inspired by the same thing, but he just kind of cleaned it up. And Buddy Holly was a genius.
Yes, he was.
And he immediately started writing songs with the Crickets, and he immediately went into the studio and took over and said, "I don't like the way that sounds." And by the time he was done with his first album, I think, he was in charge of the studio.
Right.
He was the engineer and the producer.
Yeah.
With the white lab coats.
Which wasn't done then.
No.
Yeah.
No, he started pushing the equipment. Started pushing the old tube equipment, getting that tape saturation on the tape,
right,
and just warming it up, and it exploded. Look how, he exploded. He was huge. If he hadn't died, who knows what would have happened. But he, not only did he write songs for other artists. I've been playing a lot of gigs. I lost my voice a little bit.
Yeah.
You gotta bear with me.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's a little fried, but Buddy Holly also, like I said, he wrote for other artists and he produced other artists.
Yeah.
And the Stones saw that, and they kind of took to it, really, because eventually the Stones wrote songs for other artists before they even wrote their own songs. There's all these. There's about at least half a dozen songs that were played by English artists that Jagger Richards wrote.
Yeah.
Before they wrote a song that they thought was good enough for them.
Yeah. Which I didn't know. I knew they did a Marianne Faithfull song before, but I wasn't aware of all the stuff they did. So like some of their early songs that I'm aware of, first off, they covered Not Fade Away.
Yeah.
And that becomes sort of like a blueprint for some of their own original songs.
That's correct. Yeah. And if you notice when they play it, hear him play that,
Huh?
he's got a good strum. That's a good strum because there's a swing to it,
Yeah.
which people don't pick up. People play a lot of the stuff really straight, but also when he does the lick, it's you hear the open D.
That's
So,
what
so
I'm
it's almost
saying. Shane Hunter knows more than me.
it's like when you do an acoustic, how you do the what I mean, that whole tune. It's like there's a lot of intricacies to that stuff. Keith had his playing was really clean, and I've been studying it for a long time. He
Like
often
30
says,
years. 30 years, right? You were saying last time.
yeah,
we
man.
talked.
I started doing whenever my band Mad Moxie was signed to Enigma Records. We had an 8-track reel-to-reel studio at our disposal. That was actually pretty big and nice. It was a 1-inch. It was a nice machine, a nice room at Enigma. And then also we used some of the upfront money and bought an 8-track Tascam for our living room of where the band house was.
Yeah.
And we were, at that point, we taught a few people. We taught a few people our normal set because we'd gone through, the band started as Pal Joey. Then we had to swap the singers and we swapped the name. We started moving. We changed the lyrics, kept a lot of music the same. And then we had a bass player change. So we had to teach him that. And then after we got that rolling again, we had a drummer change, and then another drummer, and then a third drummer. And so by the time it was our third drummer, we learned these songs and been playing the same set in Hollywood for at least a year.
Right.
And Andy Johns was coming out to our shows kind of regular. And he did not see the Pal Joey. He did not see the first 2 versions of Mad Moxie. He just saw the third Mach 3, I guess is what it would be considered.
Yeah.
And that's the one he liked. And he, immediately said that he could, he thought of us as being pretty old school because we just had 3 instruments, 1 singer. And he was kind of looking at us from, he'd done Zeppelin and he'd done the Stones. But after I started hanging out with the man, right around that period of time, so it was like 92, maybe 91. So 33 years ago.
The Sunset Strip blew up.
Oh, it was on fire. But that's whenever I first picked up a guitar and started playing with open tunings.
Okay.
It was 33 years ago. And I didn't realize he got rid of the low E string until literally we had a poster of him in our bathroom in the band house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in there and we've been having some brews and everything. And I go in to take a break, go in there to relieve myself. And I'm looking at the poster and I see Keith Telly up there and it's just got 5 strings on it, and it's a big poster. It's a big size. I'm like, wow, what is the chance of a photographer snapping a shot after he breaks a string and that becoming a poster?
Yeah.
That's my initial thought.
And they're using it. And they're using it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It becoming a poster. It's like now it's like something that they're printing out and they're selling and
right.
putting in guitar magazines and all that. And then, didn't really much later, but anytime I go in there, I'd start studying it. And after a while, I looked down, I noticed there's no damn bridge piece.
Right.
So it's missing for a reason.
Right.
And I asked Andy, I'm working with Andy at the time. He goes, oh, yeah, Exile on Main Street, over half of the guitars on there are open G without a low D string.
All right, you're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so we have Not Fade Away, which they covered. We have Last Time, which is kind of vibing Buddy Holly ish.
It is.
Then Keith writes the riff to Satisfaction. I'm jumping around here.
That's fine.
But Satisfaction, which is he wrote in his sleep, I hear.
Supposedly, yeah, he didn't even know it was there. He woke up and he had his new recorder next to his bed and saw that he recorded something on it, and it had the Satisfaction riff followed by 30 minutes of snoring.
Right.
Yeah.
What with the same Buddy Holly chords?
Yeah. And it's actually that song is so sophisticated. You know what I mean? Because the lick you're going right, and he's at an E, strumming the E, right? So he's playing the B and the E chord, and then when he jumps up to he's hitting the third of the A, so it's a passing note. And so he hits that at the same time that you're hitting this. So it's, I mean, that's some pretty sophisticated stuff going on underneath that lick. And then if you look at the way that the arrangement is really odd. You know, I don't want to, we could spend a whole episode on the arrangement of that song, but it's super, I think it's really sophisticated. It has like pre-chorus, a chorus, a post-chorus. Depends on how you want to look at it, what you want to call the parts. But there's like 4 sections to the song.
Yeah, right. So now we have that. This is the early stages. You said about the keyboard player who was with them at the beginning.
Ian Stewart.
Ian Stewart and Brian Jones were kind of that. They were kind of like they got. I don't know. They were together in the beginning, and
they were.
Like kind of like an open mic jam thing that became something more.
I think so.
Okay, so Ian Stewart was not in the band. Why wasn't he not considered in the band?
Well, actually, he was in the band until he got Andrew, who was the same guy that told Mick and Keith to start writing songs so they could make some money. But he was a business school major.
Yeah,
and he was just cut and dry. He's hardcore. He's a little younger than the guys, but very sharp. And he just said, look, this guy looks 10 years older and does not have you guys'
And he looks like Jay Leno.
There's no sex appeal. Yeah, I think it's Jay Leno's great-grandfather.
Right. Yeah. So he had a lantern jaw. He looked like a football player.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Hey, where do I
And here's the other thing. He would only play major chords. He wouldn't play any minor chords. He had no time for minor chords.
Is that true?
That's what I hear. Which I think is weird, because he was doing all his blues riffs on the major chords, and it's like if it had a minor, he wouldn't have a riff for it, so he wasn't going to play it. So
that's Ian Stewart.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
So this is the early Stones. This is the early Stones, and when I say the early Stones, that is okay. So the first generation, Mach 1 is Brian Jones, right?
Yeah.
We'll say. And
I think Ian was in there. I think Ian was there. I mean, I don't know if he was a house piano guy.
Yeah, but at some point they used more Nicky Hopkins and they used other guys.
Yeah.
But Ian went with him on the road until he didn't.
Any of the sophisticated piano stuff, and what's a trip here too, not to get too far ahead of it, but like there's a real sophisticated piano part to Angie.
Yeah.
And Keith wrote it. He just couldn't play it. Right. Keith can play piano, but he wasn't that sophisticated. And so that's where everybody in England got Nicky Hopkins.
Right.
Again, the Who, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody used Nicky Hopkins. And I tried to hire Nicky Hopkins whenever my band switched from being Mad Moxie to the Shakes. And we ended up hiring Ian McLagan.
Which is the Faces.
From the Faces, Small Faces. And he also ended up in the Stones. McLagan and Stewart were the 2 keyboard players on the 1981 Rolling Stones tour.
Okay.
So if you watch the old videos, you watch Honky Tonk Woman from Tempe Stadium in Arizona with all the girls and everything. And it's a very, they come in over the stadium. It's the Sun Devil Stadium. Looks like there's a million people there.
Yep.
You look on the side, and it's got McLagan playing B3 and Stewart playing piano.
Yeah.
And so I got decided a bunch of stories from McLagan. Of course, I got to hire him for my demo for Zoo Records later on, which was wonderful, and quite a player. But he would talk about Nicky, and Nicky was ill at the time, and he said he started getting a lot of jobs right then because Nicky couldn't show up
Right.
because Nicky was. I think Nicky's drinking got the best of him, like a lot of them.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
Nicky Hopkins is the piano man for sure.
Okay. So now let's segue. So we get into so now first of all with Keith Richards, he had a superpower, and if yes, he was a really great rhythm guitar player, but he had his superpower is the fact that he was a guitar player who could write.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I say this, lots of guitar players can't.
Most of the guitar players I know do not write.
Right. Yeah. So like Jimi Hendrix did.
Yes.
Beatles did.
Yes.
Jeff Beck really didn't. And Eric Clapton was like, nah, not really.
Kind of in the middle.
Yeah. He had maybe a dozen.
Albums.
He maybe had a dozen songs that he can be proud of. That he was solely responsible. I don't even know about solely responsible.
Right.
He had help all the way.
I love your honesty, man. I mean, you're direct about it.
Yeah, and I think Clapton deserves his place, but I'm saying a lot of these guys were not songwriters. Keith was. Brian Jones wasn't.
Correct.
So that was one of the reasons why he kind of was like he didn't have any leverage in the Stones at a certain point, because the thing that was making them valuable was no longer cover songs.
Yes.
They first got their notoriety through playing all these cool covers that nobody's ever heard before in England. But then they started writing their own songs, and they became well known for their own songs, which is kind of a cool little it's a cool little prototype of how to start your own band.
I think it is the actual prototype, especially in England. Early on, there's a lot of bands that start out that way, and they put out. And they still, at least, I mean, I know people like this is like a far stretch, but I know one of the girls from Bananarama, and they put out their first record was all covers, and they were able to tour and get a crowd and get a buzz going.
Right.
Same thing happened with them. Someone said, "Hey, you guys got to write songs," and so they did. And they still play gigs today just because of a handful of songs that they wrote back in the '80s.
Right.
And I think that's what
Well, there's a difference. In other words, one of the things that there's a different. Just because people can't write songs doesn't mean they can't entertain.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Bananarama can absolutely entertain, where some of the songwriters that wrote all the songs aren't the best entertainers. And you got to sell the song. Okay, so now moving forward. At some point, okay, so Brian Jones always was an influence in the early stuff. His thing when he started out was kind of Elmore James-ish. He was respected by a lot of people in England because of his love for Elmore James style blues and like open E and open D tuning.
Yes.
And so the alternate tuning started to creep its way into the band. Some of the first songs that we have, actually, let's not even start with the first songs of that. Let's go with "Let It Bleed," because I think that's a great song for beginners.
Okay.
And I didn't know this song. I didn't know this song was in standard tuning.
Yeah, it's standard tuning. That's the whole thing too. Is after people know the Stones do the open tunings, they start hearing that open tune kind of sound,
myself included.
And you start thinking that everything's in open tunings, but Keith is not afraid, like really great old school rhythm players. He's not afraid to pull out a capo. And as soon as you put a capo on a regular tuned guitar, that kind of makes an open tune sound because you're getting open strings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's just a regular tuning on "Let It Bleed," and the capo's at the 3rd fret.
Great.
which makes it basically out of C.
Key
It's a
C,
1-4.
yes.
It's a 1-4-5 out of C. You know, so it's C, F, G. And so you could play it without the capo if you want. And there's one guitar track that does do that without the capo, that plays it like this.
So it's going to be kind of like this kind of thing going on.
There's only someone we can lean on. And if you want to, you can lean on me. It's a sus chord. Then it goes to the E7, right? You have to do this shape.
Well, that's going to be like a C sharp. It is an E7, but with capo, it's kind of like a C sharp. What is that?
Right.
Like a C sharp 7 capoed.
Depends on how you look at it, right? But yeah, you set my breast. There were always open. Baby, rest your weary head, not on me. And there will always be a space in my pocket if you need a little token sympathy. Oh yeah, yes we all need. That's it.
Yeah.
4 chords.
Now, yeah, okay, so now what was the first of the 4 albums that are really noted? Like they have a 4 album stretch that were considered like the 4 greatest rock and roll albums, back-to-back rock and roll albums of all time.
I think it's Sticky. Well, the 4 albums are Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, Goat's Head Soup, and Exile on Main Street. But they're not in that order. They're let me see. Let It Bleed is right before Exile. So I think I'll have to check it, but I believe it's Sticky Fingers, followed by Let It Bleed, followed by Exile, followed by Goat's Head.
Okay.
But I can double check.
Yeah. Okay. So this song on "Let It Bleed" that was the early album. Then this is one of the first albums. So by this time, Brian Jones wasn't turning up for recording sessions, and he was like substance abusing, and his enthusiasm. There's all kinds of reasons why Brian Jones wasn't in the band.
That's correct.
Okay. And it's
That's
like
correct.
anybody who's in a band, if understands that if you can't get along and somebody's not somebody who is,
I mean, as sad as it is, you're strong as your weakest link.
Right. And he was the weakest link, and it's like with not getting. In other words, if you keep him in the band, then everything else suffers. So
absolutely,
they got rid of him, and then weeks later, he ends up.
It was about a month, I think. About a month later, he died.
Yeah. So Mick Taylor was in a couple of the songs off of Let It Bleed session. That was the first stuff he's ever played. Mick Taylor comes to him through John Mayall.
Yes, just like Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he may have taken Eric's place directly. I know he took that space in the band.
Yeah, I think he took Peter Green's space.
Mick did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, and then we're all going to be corrected in this if we're
wrong. Yeah, that one I'm not sure.
So I think Peter Green took Eric Clapton. And then when he quit to form Fleetwood Mac with Mick Fleetwood, and John
Okay.
McVie than
So you
Mick
think
Taylor.
Clapton and then Green and then Taylor?
Yeah,
That's what you're thinking?
yeah.
All right.
And then the people, yeah, yeah, they'll get to us. We'll catch hell if I'm
So
wrong.
the two songs, Mick Taylor plays on two songs of Let It Bleed. It
Right,
appears on Country Honk, which has no electric guitar in it. It's the acoustic version of Honky Tonk, basically.
right.
And Live With Me. Now, Live With Me is a rocker, but I think people think since Mick Taylor's a soloist and he played on Live With Me that he plays the solo on Live With Me, and he does not.
Yeah.
It's Keith because Keith was
You also told me something that I thought was strange.
okay.
That when he first joined the band, he says, "Play the cowboy chords to
Well,
let it bleed."
yeah, that's what they had him do. They wanted him to feel like he was part of the band, and
Right.
obviously he was an outrageous soloist.
Yeah.
But Keith
Like he
Keith
is the
did
next level. When I say
Keith.
this,
Oh yeah,
I think
oh
he
yeah,
outshines a lot of his contemporary. Yeah. Go ahead.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. Solo, he is far beyond most people at that time. But he um if you watch him, if you see any videos of him in Mayar or anything like that, he's really not much of a rhythm player,
Right.
you know. And Keith kind of it probably helped with the writing too, because Keith realized this, and Keith was super into rhythm at the time, and
Right.
he would lay the lead tracks down on the record before before Mick Taylor even got in the band. The record was almost in the bag,
Right.
so they're not going to go back and retrack it.
Right.
But live, he just handed, you
Yeah, yeah.
know,
In other words, and to be fair, in praise of Mick Taylor, probably Keith Richards, what we now know as Keith Richards' guitar style, came of when Mick Taylor was in the band because of his.
right.
He's trying to create something that is a weave to Mick Taylor, but not identical. And in other words, what Mick Taylor took the lead to another level that Keith could focus on being a really cool rhythm player.
Well, which rhythm equals songwriting, like you mentioned.
Right. Yes.
And so basically, it allowed Keith to write the songs. And Keith has said his whole life he's not much of a soloist, even though I love his solos personally.
Yes. Same.
I really do. They're
Yeah.
super tasteful. They're very much spot on. They're exactly what the song needs. And to me, that's what a solo does.
Right.
But he's not a soloist,
Yes.
to where Mick Taylor is.
Yes. Yes.
And so Keith just pretty much departmentalized and went into full writing, open tune, rhythm mode.
Yeah.
And for the next two tours, especially, Taylor was going off. He was just soloing,
They turned into a different band.
and they completely morphed, but it made him heavier.
Yes.
And I really, that era is definitely some of my favorite.
Yeah.
It just has a raw, ballsy sound to it, and I really like it.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit. Okay. So on some of the early songs that they did that were in a alternate tuning, it was like actually like open E.
It was the first tunings that Keith was using, and he probably learned it from Brian Jones.
Right.
Was open E and open D, and so there's three songs. That's what Brian Jones was doing, doing stuff like this. And so Keith used it a different way. And one of the songs that people, well, I'll do that one last. So initially, "Give Me Shelter" is one of the songs that you see. They still have in the set. It's an outstanding showpiece, and Keith currently plays it. I'll go backwards. Keith currently plays it in standard tuning, which you're using the 3 middle strings, and he plays it. He goes. And this one, you have your stock Keith shape.
Yeah, and I always thought that song was an open G.
Yeah, well, he does play it in open G for a pretty long period of time, but nowadays he plays it in our standard tuning. And whenever he broke the open G guitar out, he used it to play almost everything. So he plays that song, Capo, on the 2nd fret, for a good decade. In the Stones live, he plays it out of open G. Well, as I was saying, the chords, instead of like your stock 1-4, like 1-4, your ring finger actually goes over one string to the G string.
Yeah.
It's that in the first 2 chords and release. So it's like a suspended chord, and you add the ring finger. But on the last chord, it's not like this, it's this.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about the open E stuff.
So where that song started, now that I've gone backwards, is here with open E. This was before Keith played open G, before he even had that in his bag. My fingernails are shot too, sorry. Gets into the when the song kicks in, you hear let me think. Yeah, and those are the 3 tightest strings right next to each other. So when you're in open E, your A, D, and G string are your main strings that you use in that stuff, right? And so when Keith developed the open G, that'll come into play on how he treats it. So you can hear, and if you go to the recording and you pan hard left or hard right, you'll hear them during the distorted part after the intro. You'll hear him bouncing. In the verse, yeah. Verse. Oh, children, just a shout away. You can tell that there's no way you can be using anything other than open E. There's no way.
And Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Right. Now that's the one. I don't know if we want to do that one first. Let's do that. Well, we can do it now. That's fine. So Jumpin' Jack Flash did the same damn thing. So, well, sort of. You see Jumpin' Jack Flash is in open E, and it's just and like what you hear is the That's basically an A chord right there. So you have the two notes. You have the is that the E and the E flat, and the A chord,
Yep.
B. And if you listen to the recording on that too, you can hear it ringing out the whole A chord with the open tuning.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, question for you.
Yeah.
Did Mick Taylor have anything to do with the writing of that song?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, because yeah. I don't want to spread any rumors.
No, he did have he did get money for a song. I'm trying to think which one it was. I think it was right before Ronnie came in the band, and he wrote part of a song, and he did not get credit for it. And
Initially.
What's that?
Initially.
Yeah, for decades. And,
Yeah.
And he states that as remarks that as being the final straw, and that's why he quit the band.
Yeah.
But he thought they weren't going to last. He thought that they've already peaked and they were on their way down. All the drug use, everything that's going on, just the fact that they could even stand up, and play performances night after night.
And he wasn't living clean either.
No, he wasn't, and it scared him, and he didn't like it, and so he quit. But he did finally get his credits on that song.
What was it?
I'm trying to remember. It's a slower song. I don't remember if it's Beast of Burden or if it's Waiting on a Friend. Waiting on a Friend's too late. It must be Beast of Burden. It's something like that. I'll have to look that up too. I can probably do it while we're talking. But so as you can hear, like I said, it's real simple as far as but yet you go see a non-Stones band play it.
Ventilator Blues?
No, just as far as Mick Taylor, maybe. Did you look it up?
Yep, that's the Exile on Main Street.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yep. Top.
That sounds right. And you go see a bar band do Jumpin' Jack Flash. They're going to add this D chord to it, which is not in it. They're going to hear him go.
That's kind of Johnny Winters.
Johnny Winter plays it that way.
Yeah.
Well, Bigger Than Hell by 1980, when Keith adopted the open G for live performance, by the time they're playing.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so now late 60s, Keith befriends a lot of people because being a famous rock star gets you invited to a lot of parties and a lot of things, a lot of people. Graham Parsons being one of them, and another guy by the name of Ride Cooter.
Yes.
Came along, and Ride basically, Keith says that's the first time I ever heard somebody specialize in open G tuning.
Correct. So that's different than open E or open D.
Right.
And the main difference is it takes those three strings and it centers them. So you're playing the same, your tuning stays the same on your three center strings, but your center strings become the high B, the G, and the D string. To where on an open E tuning, your center strings are the A string, D string, and G string. And so it's a different string set. It's one string set down the guitar if you're holding the guitar up.
Right.
And so the licks will work that you've learned on open E. You just have to move them over a string set.
So this tuning, like when we think of Keith Richards nowadays, mostly a lot of the stuff that we think of is the open G. His open G. I want to call them innovations because what
They
Rye
are.
did. Rye was a blues guy,
Yeah.
and the Stones were blues too. But what Keith did is I'm going to write a song that's not just a blues.
Yeah. Not just a 1-4-5.
So the other I guess the other innovation Keith did, you were mentioning this before,
Yes.
is the 5 string. It's like Keith lopped off for Keith Richards, the 6 string was just getting in the way.
Well, the reason is when you're using the open G tuning, and again, the reason he liked it is because Keith plays kind of like Eddie Van Halen. He uses those three, like I was talking about, those 3 center strings a lot. And the problem is when you go to the low string was a 5th. So it wasn't the root of the chord he was playing. It was the 5th of the chord he was playing.
Yes, and it muddied things up.
It mucked it up, and it took the focus out of it. So he just got rid of it. Like I noticed in the bathroom, there it is. There's no bridge piece.
Right.
Oh, this one, I don't even have a tuner on this one.
Right. Yeah, you are for real.
That's how you do it.
I am. Yeah. So tons of like signature things like
Well, to get out real quick, let's get out of the open E. A lot of people will hear he started playing this song in open G when he's put the open G electric guitar on stage, which is anytime after Exile and Street Fighting Man.
okay.
And so he would capo it. One of his favorite spots to capo a guitar is on the 4th fret, and that's where he plays Street Fighting Man. It plays like this, I say, hey. So that's the whole turnaround. But he actually wrote that on an acoustic guitar, played it into a cassette recorder to where it distorted, brought the cassette recording to the studio, and had Charlie Watts play drums to that. They amplified it up. And so that actual cassette recording of the acoustic guitar
Right.
is on Street Fighting Man. And it sounds like a distorted guitar because the cassette recorder is distorted because they got it turned all the way up. But he's playing it here. I'm sorry. Same thing. You can see how it correlates between the two songs. He goes down on the F instead of going
So
up.
what tuning is that guitar in?
What's that?
What tuning is that guitar in?
That's the open E. That's where it started at.
Okay.
But that, I just want to get this one out of the way.
Yeah.
That's one of the songs that he wrote in open E. And
so what
initially toured with an open E guitar. Sometimes he'd use the D in open E, he'd use a Les Paul, all kinds of stuff early on, right after he wrote those songs. After Sticky Fingers and after Let It Bleed and stuff like that. But by the time he did Exile, he got the open G, and I don't think he used open E hardly anymore at all. He may have, once they became super famous and he had 100 guitars,
they all had 5 strings.
Yeah, most of them.
Right, except for
right.
Yeah.
So okay, so now we're to the open G tuning.
So what open G tuning? Normal open G tuning is D, G, D, G, B, D. And that's what he learned from Ry Cooder.
Yes.
Uh, what he did differently, obviously, as we've been saying, is he took the low D off.
Yes. He took the low string off, and that gave him a tighter
I
sound.
think it's cool. I think it's cool that he uses a capo. Like everybody says when they talk about capos, like lesser known people, lesser minds think that capo is just completely cheating.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
We know better. It's not. It's the only way to do it.
That's how you get that ring, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We want it to sound like an open chord.
If you're playing two guitars, make one of them capoed.
Right.
That alone will give you two separate tonalities
Right.
guitar track, and it'll make it weave on its own.
Right, right.
Just that. Then you start changing up your timing of your licks and doing what you do. But yeah, you're right. Whenever I first did it, anytime I remember the first hippie guy that showed me a capo, and he said, if you ever need to cheat, this will do it for you. You could just cheat like this. And I didn't get it. But he definitely talked down about it.
Yeah. I did a recording session once that the guy was belittling me. The producer was belittling me. They had a song and they had a set of chords figured out, but what I did with it is I like capoed it on seventh, tuned it to an alternate chord, and came up with a guitar hook with a capo. Then he never said that again.
Oh, good.
So yeah.
How did he say that then? But okay, right. Good. But he was busting your balls as you were doing
Yeah,
it.
because I don't know. I know what I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's magic to open ringing notes.
Yeah, you want it to sound like an open string. You use use a capo.
Yeah, and it has a direct effect on the other strings. You get that sympathetic vibration going. That's what Keith says. He said this tuning, is magic. He said it's the next closest thing to being in heaven. That's what he says. But what do you want to go through in open G?
So let's see. Hold on a second. Yeah. Can't always get what you want.
Okay. Now I don't know what they have a few different things in the studio but I know for years how he's played it live.
There it is.
Fifth fret. Yeah. And what a ring. Listen to that, right? Is that little melody in there going?
And I hear the French horn part in the background.
Yeah.
What's name? So that's kind of a melody in open G. There's a melody in the riff.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. There's like a counterpart, right, that he's playing in there. That if you weren't doing it this way, it wouldn't come out that way.
Yes.
That's another thing that the tuning is adding. That's as far as I know, it's the only one he's playing with its C. Most of he has a Malcolm, which is his guitar. It's a 53 cello that is capoed at the fourth fret, and then he has Macabre, which is open G. So he's been touring with those two guitars since I think he acquired those. If you watch the 81 and 82 tours, he doesn't really have a Macabre yet. Or if he owns it, it's not in rotation on the stage yet.
Right.
But when they geared it back up in the mid 80s, by the time he does Start Me Up, Macabre's in. It's in.
What year is that?
Tattoo You.
What year is that?
Oh, it's 80. You know,
Hold on.
here we go. Let's cheat it. Let's find out.
I want to say late 70s.
What year did Tattoo You come out by the Rolling Stones?
81. I was wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say 82. So yeah, that makes sense because that's whenever that's the tour I'm talking about. That's whenever they do spend the night together and they do all that stuff. And for what that's worth, there's still a lot of songs that he plays in regular tuning.
Right.
About 50%. He plays in regular tuning, and some stuff these days he plays in regular tuning, and it was originally done in the open G. It's just
so what I think is interesting. He said that when as soon as he discovered open G tuning, he like in open in just standard tuning, he exhausted everything that he thought he knew on the guitar, and everything was just going to be one of the things that what he didn't like in guitar players, except for Mick Taylor, I guess. He loved Mick Taylor, but what he didn't like everybody's trying to play fast.
Yeah.
He didn't care. His attitude, it's the grease, it's the groove.
Yeah.
Okay.
And man,
so it's like getting into that open G, that enabled him to completely reinvent himself.
And what's funny, check this out. Are you ready for this one? So that period, Exile on Main Street. So there's the 27 Club.
Yeah.
You have a poster of me on the thing. I just played a 27 Club gig at the Whiskey. So that's all the people that died when they're 27.
Right.
What they say in theology and different things of this nature is that at 27, you are offered an opportunity to reinvent yourself. If you're like an artist like this and a real serious artist, like well known, or be done with it.
Yeah.
Keith was 27 years old whenever he got into the open G tuning.
Okay.
So he's still with us.
He reinvented himself. You know what's strange? Like they say, schizophrenia makes its appearance. Like 27 is like the magic age for schizophrenia.
Okay.
So I don't know if that has anything to do with any of it, but
it could all be tied together.
Though,
yeah.
Right? It's a conspiracy.
It's like you have schizophrenia when you run into a wall and you're like, I've done everything I can do.
Right.
And this is that and whatever. Like I'm thinking about what Hendrix left us with, and he only recorded for 3 years.
Right.
And they're still releasing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This many years later. So I mean, I don't know if he just wasn't.
He recorded a ton of the stuff that he recorded wasn't released in his lifetime.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 3 albums that was released.
4 albums, including Band of Gypsies.
Okay, so 4 including, so there you go. And after that, anything else was after. It was post. But yeah, Keith was just, just all his licks that.
All right, important to note. Let's check this out. Okay, so for guitar players who are open G, the big Keith Richards chords, what it turns out to be like a minor 7 chord, right?
It looks like
like a minor 7. That is, but what he also does is this, which is the Chuck Berry influence.
Yes.
And also he does this. That little movement. Sometimes it's like it's the minor 7 form, but then sometimes it's the.
What form would you call that? Being a guitar instructor, what do you call that?
I have no idea. Like, okay, so as a form, it's kind of a minor 11 with. Yeah, it's kind of a minor 11.
Yeah, it's odd, right?
A minor 11 form, but it's not a minor 11 in the tuning.
No. Let's see. This is a. We got D.
So this root 5th.
Do a D chord.
That's an add 9. Root, fifth 2. It's like,
So if you got a 4,
that's a 4. This is a 2. 4 and a 2. A 5 and a 1. No 3.
yeah. And so here's the magic trick. Like you hear a song like Before They Make Me Run, right? There's his minor chord.
Oh God.
That's how he plays a minor chord, real quick and easy. Put your third on your pinky, 4 frets up from the bar chord.
Oh yeah.
It's like an E minor, right?
Yeah.
So it's like F, E minor, C. F, E minor, C. So like if you were playing like E minor C with a triad, you do it here.
Yeah.
And so that's your third. Here's your third down here. You know,
Yep.
like this. That's if you're doing it, it's just real simple to play. Just a 3-note. You have 1, 5, 3, right? That's your triad.
Don't get that high note in there though.
Which one?
No, I'm saying this to myself, not you.
Oh,
You're playing it right. That's ugly. Just those 3 notes.
yeah. And I tell you, like I've told you this before, like Keith, you see Keith play live, and he'll play up here a lot. Like pick on the fretboard.
Right.
He's doing that to gauge. That's how his depth on how much he has to dig into the string. He doesn't have to dig into the string a 1/4 inch. He just has to stroke the string.
Right.
That stuff he learned on acoustic. And he started playing. He started playing acoustic, and he started making the acoustic still have volume by playing it over
And the fact that, and you brought this up when we talked before, the fact that this is the thing that a lot of people miss when they talk about Keith Richards is his picking hand wasn't super violent. It was light.
It's very finesseful. You know, I mean, he can play hard. He can get a spank out of it, but he's not digging in. He's just going around. It's almost like a funk guitarist.
Yes.
It's fast and it's across the top, like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's putting the middle of the chord on the beat, not the top of the chord. You ever think about that?
Say again.
You're tracking, and you have a click track, or you have a drummer, and you're playing your one, and you're putting the top note.
Yep.
On the beat, right? Boom, cha, boom, cha. Well, when you're playing a whole chord, are you playing the top of the chord? Is the top note still on the beat, and this is after, or is the middle of the chord in the beat? You know what I mean? With strings, there's a lot of. You can go down a rabbit hole for sure, but Keith is very, very fucking good. People have no idea how good the man is.
There's a lot of nuance there.
Yeah, it's a good thing, nuance, you know.
That's all open G stuff.
What's that?
That's all open G.
Yeah.
You do it like that, like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Listen. No, he never does. He never really repeats himself.
Say again.
But he really doesn't ever repeat himself. You know what I mean?
They're kind of like jamish.
They're like kind of like a jazz band.
Yeah, it's jamish because Keith says it's none of it. You can't tab out what we do.
No, right?
Yeah,
Sure. You can tab out one version of it.
Yeah, but that's not the way we're going to play it tomorrow. Yeah, so you got to learn your instrument.
Yeah, so I mean that's what's great about that's why I can play all the gigs I do every year and I never get sick of it. Besides the crowd reaction to the songs, no matter how old they are,
Hmm.
people just start moving. And that's what Charlie's deal was. He's like, Charlie could play jazz.
Yeah,
He could
I have one of his Charlie Parker. He did
yeah,
a CD that his first influences were jazz musicians. Okay,
absolutely.
he did a Charlie Parker. He did a Charlie Parker CD
Yeah. That,
when they were on break, I guess.
yeah, like a tribute kind of thing.
Right.
And he loved that stuff and that's challenged his mind and stuff. But just the chemistry of him and Keith together, I mean, as soon as you hear some of those grooves, they're electric. And the crowd just, just goes nuts. I couldn't believe I saw him twice in the last tour, like I mentioned. I couldn't believe the crowd reaction is still there. It's still amazing. The crowd just goes nuts for these songs.
I just saw a meme. Like, somebody asked Keith Richards, "Who's the better band, the Beatles or the Stones?" I said, "The Stones are still selling out stadiums. The Beatles died like 6 years into their."
The Beatles never played a stadium. I guess they played
They did Shea Stadium, yes, yes. So they were. He said, and he gave them credit for that. And yeah. Okay. So what can you tell us? What was the 10-string song that we were talking about?
Yeah, that's something that people don't realize, and that's why it sounds the way it does. Is Keith not only Keith not only used the open G tuning on his electric, he uses it on 12-string acoustic on the song Wild Horses.
Yes.
And same thing, instead of clipping off one top string, you have to clip off two.
Right.
So open 10-string.
Right.
But as soon as you hear it played, you're just like, oh, okay. It's just some.
And then you hear those double stops on the top. Was that Mick Taylor? That is Mick Taylor.
Or you can really hear it just when he goes to right here, right before the verse, he goes to the B minor. He does those licks in between. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's insane, and we play that one. I mean, I'll like when we're doing fly dates and stuff, I'll say, hey, can you guys acquire me a 12-string, and actually I'm gonna fly with one guitar and I'll fly with this one because I can't make one of these on the spot. You know what I mean? I gotta have my macabre, my number one. So I fly with the 5-string telly, and I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff to the airport.
Right.
I don't want, I just want to show up with my main acts, and if I have to, I can play the whole show on one guitar. You can do it.
You can what?
But, huh?
You can do what?
I said, if I have to, I will play the whole show on this.
Right.
I'll transpose it and I'll just play it on this.
Right.
But truth of the matter is, there's songs like that we play all the time, like let's spend the night together or something. That's like, let me turn this down. Sorry.
That's in standard tuning too.
That's in standard tuning. So I need a standard tune guitar. So I'll go, okay, I need a standard tune Telecaster. And they go, okay, we can get you that. And they said, I will need, let me see. We're going to probably do something. and I'll need a standard tune acoustic in case we want to do. Let's say we want to go. Let's say we do. What's that? Come on. Come on down, sweet Virginia. Come on down. So we're doing stuff like this. I need a regular tune guitar. What if I do this? Well, I need
Sometimes you pick a set list that doesn't require all those guitars.
Sometimes I do one. I got a set list that requires two, but then I go, you want us to play Wild Horses? And I'll be like, yeah, okay. So okay, well, so now I need a 12-string acoustic, and if you would, before I get there, cut the top two strings off and tune it to up in G, because I want the neck to settle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now there's a place we play called Thunder Valley, which is a fairly new venue, and they, instead of having a backline company that they use, they have their own backline company, and they have like 200 guitars. These guys, I gave them my list, and they go, cool, what gauge strings do you want on them?
All right, that's wonderful.
And I was like, what? Yeah, freaking amazing, right? There's some great picks on that, man. That's right. It goes to the, which is like a, just the, not, I messed up with this. It's just C. It goes to the, and that's another thing, like you mentioned earlier, he does always Chuck Berry stuff. He made it easier instead of doing like this, especially
Right.
if you're going to do the when you go up to the 7,
Right.
that's a hell of a stretch when you're playing in this part of the neck. And with the open tuning, he can just go.
Yeah. So for those who have kept up with us thus far, you got an open G guitar. Some of the things you can do that you can't do in standard tuning. Well, I don't know. You can do it in standard tuning, but
You can do it.
This is what's cool to do. So what I think is important about all of this is everything that he has ever, what we're nerding out on, we can use this as stuff that we can experiment on.
Yeah.
In our own style. We don't necessarily, and all respect to you for getting his style down as good as you get it, but you also recognize that you want to create your own style too.
Yeah.
And this is like college.
Yeah.
All I do that kind of ideas.
I'm working on stuff now, which the only bummer with playing as many nights as I do is I don't get to stay home as much and record songs. But I use all this stuff, and that's what I was using it. That's why I learned it from my band, The Shakes, and for music that I'm writing now. I utilize all this stuff that I've learned, but apply it in my own
You're on
way.
tunes.
Yeah.
So the lesson here, the big lessons, the big lessons here are steal from everybody. Acknowledge who you're stealing from.
Pay homage or
Yeah,
homage.
yeah. Tell them.
Right up front.
Know the people. Know them by name who you're stealing from, and give them
Right up
credit.
front. Just tell people.
Or
That way no one's going to bust your balls.
repurpose and reinvent.
Yes.
And learn to write a song.
Yes.
Because that'll come around again.
Yes. Start writing your own song.
We may not live to see the day, but it'll come around again.
Yeah. Yeah. We may not. Right. But it will. Two things here too. People think of while we're still going, songs in normal standard tuning that sound like they're in open tuning is like songs like this. I haven't played this song for a while, so I could.
Midnight Rambler.
Right? Totally sounds like you're like, what is that sound? And it's just capoed it, you know? And
Yep.
It sounds so cool. You know, I mean, it gets to the. And another song, which people often think is because of the sound of it, that it's an open tune song. It's a regular tune song with the capo on the second fret is
Yes, Monkey Man. Here's a question for you. Here's a question for you.
Shoot.
How do you play Beast of Burden?
Regular tune, no capo. Like put your thumb over, take a B chord, right? And put your thumb on it like this. And then turn it into the 4 chord, turn it into the 5. And then go up to what would be the C sharp minor.
All right.
And then do a lick which turns it into an A major and go. Which is in a second inversion A major. So it's like, get a better tone here. Hold on. And you can hear him when he's introing the song. Speaking of intros, while you're grabbing your axe, Keith has said all these guitar players spend all their years learning how to play the 15 to 30 seconds in the middle of the song, which is this guitar solo. And he said he spends every waking moment on the guitar intro.
Right.
Nothing can be more important than the introduction of the song. And that's why every one of their songs, he can play 3 notes, and everyone, the 75,000 people in the arena know what song it is already. Beast of Burden's a great one, you know? And you can hear that. You can hear the thumb wrapped over. You can hear the B and the E. And you can hear the C sharp in the minor. And and then you hear him let off, and hear the A, and he starts over.
See, what's funny about that is I play that kind of like a jazz musician.
How you do it? I like that. What's your more like this?
Huh?
Flip your neck like that. So what are you playing? What are you doing?
So that's like an open G shape. And then this little thing here. Like a piano chord.
Right?
Minor 7 chord.
Okay, so
I got small hands, so that thumb business that you're talking about, I'm not. It's going to take some work on that one. So this is kind of a reinterpretation of Keith Richards.
yeah, I like it. I like it.
All right, Shane, we got to wrap it up. Thank you. We're going to do this again. We're not done. We're going to talk about more stuff.
Yes, right on, man. Here goes. I got it.
We got all kinds of things. So take us out with what was the tune you were Tumbling Dice? Take us out with Tumbling Dice.
You got it.
And thank you so much for this. This is cool.
Dude, you're welcome. Thank you, man. This is all fun. Hang on. Hey, you got to make sure your capo is not too tight. You want it to be in tune, so you want it to use the tension of your hand.
Tricks there. Little hacks there, people.
Right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wonderful. See you, everybody.
Rod.
See you, everybody. Hi, this is Rod from Boomer Guitar Sessions. I personally wanted to thank you for being part of our community. If you like what we're doing here and you want to see more of it, please hit the like, subscribe, and share. And this helps me spread my musical messages to all over the world. Thank you. I appreciate you. And always remember,